Dear everyone, the modern illiberal left has something they would like everyone that doesn't march in ideological lockstep with them to know. Everyone is a Nazi. Everyone is a fascist. Everyone is a white supremacist, and you have to punch them all out. That has been the tone of the conversation for at least 18 months that I've noticed. And basic disagreements are now colored with the overuse of slurs like Nazi and fascist, even when there's absolutely no grounds to use such terms, or even in cases where the definition of the term being used has no connection to the conversation whatsoever. Any disagreements, no matter how minor? Any criticism, no matter how constructive? Such things are solely the domain of two of the most horrific regimes of the 20th century, and anyone that engages in such behavior is clearly a Nazi, a fascist, and a white supremacist, regardless of reality. Even more importantly, they must be punished for such wrongthink to ensure that only the most progressive of agendas is ever thought of or communicated. And that is even more troubling. The sudden, vitriolic desire to morally justify and rationalize violence against people that have been labeled in these ways, even if these labels are being applied unjustly or irrationally. Even when such labels are vaguely justified, the violence is not, because it will merely be spun and misrepresented by the victim of such violence, as Richard Spencer is already doing. You heard me correctly. Richard Spencer is busy spinning all of the hate directed at him and the attempts to silence him as attacks on the truth, when the sad reality is that a 12-year-old could probably rebut him, and by high school, nearly any student should be capable of rebutting him. All it really takes is asking him if he has any peer-reviewed, reproducible data that demonstrates that melanin is somehow connected in any manner to intellectual, physical, or social potential in any individual. Here's the thing, leftists. If you ride a tiger, you have to hope that you never fall off, and you certainly can't hop off. Once you've started down a road of trying to morally justify and rationalize violence against people that don't share your opinions, or even against people like Spencer who do have shitty opinions, there is a very real chance that you will be left to face the violence you advocate when your position is suddenly the one that is unjustly labeled as fascist or Naziist. Don't believe me? Then why has the Women's March on Washington, which was supposed to be an event to unite women in sisterhood, degenerated into divisive identity politics? Why have organizations like the NUS in Britain decided that gay men are no longer oppressed? The positions of the illiberal left mutate and metastasize so rapidly that anyone can suddenly discover that they aren't inclusive or intersectional enough. Suddenly it will be those people that are being mislabeled, and it will be those people that the tiger bites. The other very real danger is that such rationalizations will only serve to convince people like Spencer to arm themselves and drive an escalatory cycle of violence. If that happens, it will inevitably escalate to fatal violence. In my opinion, the only time that you can legitimately justify violence is in self-defense or in defense of another. As pathetic as Spencer's opinions are, I don't think he actually has the capacity to enact any of his rhetoric on his own. If you repeatedly embarrass him with rebuttals, you'll make a laughingstock of him. His support will waver and evaporate, and he'll become another crazy corner preacher crying doom into the wind. I have two final points to make. I thought he was going to hit me, so I hit him back first will never be considered an acceptable legal defense, and if you don't stand up to all forms of supremacist activity and supremacist rhetoric, but you insist that Richard Spencer and his ilk are worth beating up, then you're a fucking hypocrite. Do you have questions, concerns, comments, or inexplicable hatred, or a desperate desire to tell me that I'm a Nazi, fascist, white supremacist, regardless of the reality of the situation? Well, feel free to use the comment section below, or find me on Facebook and Twitter. Or don't, you're welcome to disagree.